Breanna Stewart is fed up with these WNBA owners.
Breanna Stewart, she ended up stating absolutely frustrated. They kind of just ignored everything we said. Oh my God.
It's time for the CBA to reflect our true value.
It is absolutely ridiculous.
A WNBA lockout is on the horizon.
WNBA players were insulted by her offer.
Breanna Stewart just snapped. The league's top players are furious over how the WNBA is handling CBA talks.
The WNBA is heading towards a lockout. Work stoppage is probably the most correct way to describe it, but Stewart expressed frustration after the WNBA received their first CBA negotiation.
And Caitlyn Clark just made it worse, or better, depending on who you ask. In a bold move, Clark publicly confronted the commissioner, questioning prize money treatment and fairness.
Caitlyn Clark in the locker room saying, dang, yo, we got more money for this than we get for the WNBA finals.
If you believe Caitlyn's the only one speaking real truth right now, drop a 100% for Caitlyn in the comments, because this league needs to hear it.
Caitlyn Clark is must-see TV.
In reality, she is the best thing that's ever happened to this league.
There is some version of animosity based upon the love that Caitlyn Clark is receiving by everybody else.
Breanna Stewart has always been known as the steady voice of leadership in the WNBA, a decorated champion, union rep, and someone who typically chooses diplomacy over drama. But not anymore. In the middle of the league's most high-stakes contract talks in history, Stewart has officially reached her breaking point.
I think we can focus on our players in the union. We got a proposal from the league, which was honestly a slap in the face.
And this time, she's not holding back. Multiple transcripts confirm what fans already suspected. Stewart is furious over how the CBA negotiations are being handled.
So as expected, the WNBA owners gave the players a CBA they're not happy with.
Breanna Stewart is fed up with these WNBA owners.
The first offer from the league wasn't just rejected. It was seen by players as downright insulting. And Stewart, who's been directly involved with union leadership, made it clear that the league isn't listening.
Breanna Stewart, she ended up stating absolutely frustrated. They kind of just ignored everything we said. Oh my God.
In her own words, she said, they just ignored everything we said. That one sentence says it all. The players didn't feel heard, respected, or even considered. Behind the scenes, the WNBPA, the union representing the players, had presented a unified front.
The WNBA players has been negotiating a CBA agreement for the past couple months.
They wanted better pay, improved conditions, more modern facilities, and basic dignity.
Improved conditions, 100%.
Focus on the teams that have everything set up right now, and maybe focus on the teams also that find excuses continuously to lack investment into their players
when traveling for games. But the league's first offer allegedly did the opposite. It locked players into outdated structures with little change in earnings and zero progress on charter flights or roster investment. Stewart, a former MVP and Olympic gold medalist, wasn't just reacting emotionally. She knew what was at stake. She had signed a one-year deal with the New York Liberty, specifically so she wouldn't be stuck under old CBA terms when they expired.
Current CBA agreement is set to expire at the conclusion of this season.
Like many top players, she expected this negotiation to be a moment of transformation. But instead, the league offered what players like Satou Sabally called a slap in the face.
NBA player Breanna Stewart and Satou Sabally has been making it vocal.
I think we can focus on our players in the union. We got a proposal from the league, which was honestly a slap in the face. And I think we really have to put an emphasis on the players that are in our league right now. But I love to see the league growing. I think, adding these teams in Philly and Detroit, that's how amazing is that the league can grow. But how cool would it also be to have a little bit expansion on the rosters? Let's focus on the teams that have everything set up right now, and maybe focus on the teams also that find excuses continuously to lack investment into their players before we focus on adding more to the grain of people that can't really be sustained.
And while Stewart didn't go as far as Sabally in her language, her tone said everything. She publicly voiced her frustration through interviews and subtle but sharp comments.
Stewart expressed frustration after the WNBPA received their first CBA negotiations.
Breanna Stewart and Satu Sabali has been making it vocal.
She questioned the timing, the direction, and the real intentions of the league's front office. Behind closed doors, several players reportedly echoed her sentiments. But Stewart, being the seasoned leader, was the one who stood out front and took the heat. But here's the thing. Stewart's anger isn't just about the offer itself. It's about the bigger pattern of disregard. The league is growing rapidly. New franchises are popping up. Expansion fees are being collected. Media coverage is surging. And yet the players still feel left behind.
WNBA players, they not only want money for themselves, they're also demanding millions of dollars to be invested into facilities.
They're watching the business explode around them while their own value is still being debated like it's 2015. And no one embodies this divide more than Breanna Stewart. She's carried teams, she's won championships, she's stayed loyal to the league through injury, setbacks, and sacrifice. But now, after everything she's given to the WNBA, she's watching her efforts get undercut by executives who seem more focused on PR than progress. This is the first time in years where Stewart's frustration has gone fully public. And it sends a message. If the most respected veteran in the league thinks this deal is a joke, then the league has a serious problem. But what makes this moment even more explosive is what came next. Because just as Stewart was expressing her anger, Caitlyn Clark stepped up and put the spotlight on the commissioner herself.
Should these salaries be $80,000? No. They should at least be making either $1 million or $500,000. Supporting this league way before Breanna Stewart got there. Caitlyn Clark should be coming back quick, fast, and in a hurry.
While Breanna Stewart was rallying the veterans and union voices, Caitlyn Clark quietly did something far more disruptive. She challenged the league's leadership in the most public way possible, and she didn't need to yell or stage a protest. All she had to do was speak the truth. It started with a question, one that went viral almost instantly. Why is the Commissioner's Cup, a glorified midseason tournament, offering $500,000 in prize money, while the actual WNBA championship only rewards $250,000 to the winners? Caitlyn Clark raised that question directly, not in a press release, but in a press conference.
Caitlyn Clark in the locker room saying, dang, yo, we got more money for this than we get for the WNBA finals.
And even though her tone was calm, the message was explosive. She was effectively saying, this league has its priorities backward, and the timing couldn't have been more critical. Right in the middle of tense CBA negotiations. That single comment sparked waves across social media. Fans, analysts, even former players started asking the same question. How is the biggest star in the league confused by how her own league values winning? And the answer was simple, because the math doesn't make sense. The WNBA has poured marketing dollars into flashy events like the Commissioner's Cup, while neglecting the one thing that actually builds legacy, championships. But Clark didn't stop there.
They're already in debt. They're already losing money supporting the team.
She tried to advocate for her teammates to get bonuses, not just for herself. She reportedly pushed for spot incentives and performance rewards for lesser-paid players on the Fever. Her goal wasn't to grab more money, it was to share the rewards with the women who grind beside her every game. But instead of rewarding that leadership, the league shut her down. Flat, no bonuses, no policy changes, no seat at the table. Let that sink in. The woman bringing in more fans, more sponsorships, and more media attention than any other player is being told to stay quiet. And that silence isn't just from the league, it's from her fellow players too.
CBA announced 3 new expansion teams that will bring the league to a record 18 franchises.
Many players are uncomfortable with how much influence Caitlyn Clark has. One commentator put it bluntly, "There's a level of respect, but I don't think they like her." Another said she's been trying to fit in for months, trying to earn her place, but she keeps getting pushed out of the inner circle. Even as she's lifting the league financially, she's being met with passive exclusion and visible jealousy. The truth is, Caitlyn Clark didn't ask to be the face of the WNBA, but the fans chose her.
This league, their growth has been exponential due to one player.
Because of Caitlyn Clark, the WNBA has experienced unprecedented growth that is based on an incredibly fragile foundation.
The networks chose her, the sponsors chose her, and whether the league likes it or not, she now has more leverage than anyone else in the sport.
The one player that actually could get some change.
When she speaks, people listen. When she plays, people show up. When she's not on the floor, ratings drop. Period. So when Caitlyn Clark publicly questioned the league's priorities, it wasn't just a soundbite. It was a wake-up call. She exposed how leadership is focusing on surface-level wins while neglecting the core of the game. And that hit a nerve.
They're living off the subsidies of the National Basketball Association. They're living off of Steph Curry and LeBron James and Michael Jordan and Kobe and all the legacies.
Because she said what a lot of people inside the league were too afraid to say out loud. And here's the irony. The same commissioner who shut her out of the bonus structure is the one whose job now depends on the momentum Clark created. Because without Clark, there's no sold-out arenas, no massive viewership spikes, no multi-million-dollar media rights deals. Caitlyn is single-handedly making the league bankable, and yet she has zero say in how it's run. But here's the real kicker. Caitlyn's not angry. She's not dramatic. She's not on social media throwing shade or playing the victim. She's doing the opposite, showing maturity and focus in the face of tension. And that's what makes her even more powerful. Because while others are lashing out or politicking, Clark is earning the respect of fans, brands, and investors by doing one thing right, telling the truth. Her message to the WNBA is clear. If you want me to carry the league, let me be part of the conversation.
Caitlyn's got to be in the room. She's a reason for the league to even be in position to make these asks.
And so far, that invitation has been denied. The league can no longer ignore what's happening. Breanna Stewart is furious, and Caitlyn Clark is calmly cutting through the noise. And with every game, every interview, and every subtle call-out, Clark is making one thing crystal clear. She's not just here to play, she's here to lead. What's happening in the WNBA right now isn't just a contract dispute.
Players like Breanna Stewart, Kelsey Mitchell, all signed one-year deals.
It's a crisis of identity. And the longer it goes unresolved, the more the cracks start to show. Not just between the players and owners, but between the players themselves. At the center of it all, Caitlyn Clark, a 22-year-old rookie who's managed to expose the league's biggest insecurities without even trying. Let's break it down. Since the day Caitlyn Clark was drafted, she's been under a microscope. Not just from the media or the fans, but from inside the league itself. Players saw her coming. They saw the hype. They saw the TV contracts, the endorsements, the record-breaking jersey sales. And while some embraced her, many others didn't. The transcripts spell it out clearly. There's a growing resentment within the WNBA toward Caitlyn Clark. And it's not just about money, it's about power. There's a level of respect, but I don't think they like her.
Caitlyn Clark, I don't think they like her.
That line reveals everything. Clark didn't come in and demand the spotlight. She earned it. She played harder, attracted more eyes, and elevated the entire league's visibility. But instead of being celebrated, she's been met with cold shoulders, cheap shots on the court, and silence off it. This silence is strategic. Right now, the WNBPA, the Players Union, is actively negotiating the most important collective bargaining agreement in league history. But instead of leveraging the influence of the one player who's brought the WNBA to new heights, they're keeping Caitlyn completely out of the conversation. She's not on the negotiating committee. She's not at the table. She's not even being consulted, despite being the single most valuable asset the league has ever had.
She is by far the best player in the league. All the fans want to be just like Caitlyn.
She's the biggest draw by far this league has ever had. She has put this league on the national map in ways it's never been.
Why? Because if Caitlyn Clark has a voice in the CBA, the balance of power shifts. The veterans who've led the union for years risk losing control of the narrative. The players who've built their careers in a league that was struggling financially now find themselves overshadowed by someone who changed the game in 6 months. That's a hard pill to swallow, and for many it's easier to exclude her than to embrace the change she represents. But that exclusion comes at a cost, and not just to Caitlyn. It's tearing the league apart from the inside. The locker rooms are divided. Some teams are riding a media wave, pulling in millions of viewers thanks to Clark's presence. Other teams are watching empty seats, limited coverage, and getting frustrated. The players on the Fever or Valkyries are making serious money through sponsorships. Meanwhile, teams like the Sky, Sun, and Sparks are dealing with outdated facilities and commercial flights. The league is growing, but not evenly, and that disparity is fueling more tension. One transcript called it outright poverty franchises, teams that simply can't keep up with the Caitlyn-led surge in interest. And when the business side of the league is evolving faster than the cultural side, you get fractures. Players who once fought side by side for basic improvements now find themselves competing for visibility and survival. And let's talk about leadership. Some of the union's top voices, the same players calling for a lockout, have equity in a rival league. Unrivaled.
During the whole unrivaled promotion, all they did was take shots at the WNBA.
That's right. These players are financially invested in building their own product outside of the WNBA. So now ask yourself, what happens if the WNBA season gets canceled due to a lockout? Caitlyn Clark, with no team to play for, becomes a free agent of influence. If she joins Unrivaled, that league explodes overnight.
Popularity of the league is based on one player. Sure, she pretends to think differently publicly. Ooh, our league is filled with major stars.
It gets the fans, it gets the media, it gets the money. And the players who own pieces of it, they win big. So while the union claims to be negotiating in good faith, the reality is more complicated.
Y'all promoted another league while taking shots at this league the entire time.
Some leaders may gain more from tearing the WNBA down than building it up. It's a dangerous game because right now the WNBA is standing on a razor's edge.
Players are demanding million-dollar salaries. To make matters worse, they think they deserve it. They see the $200 million TV deal.
The league has never had more attention, more potential, or more momentum. But it's also never been more fragile. The players are frustrated, the owners are hesitant, the leadership is fractured, and at the center of it all stands Caitlyn Clark, a generational talent, silenced by a system afraid of what she represents. She represents change. She represents money. She represents power. And most of all, she represents a future that doesn't rely on backroom politics and bitter gatekeeping. But instead of building around her, the league is shutting her out. Instead of uniting behind the one player who's actually growing the pie, they're fighting over crumbs. And if they're not careful, they'll push her away. And with her, everything they built.
But I think for a lot of people, they like balance. I think a lot of people are trying to have families nowadays too. And so I do think that that balance is super important, especially for mental health nowadays. The people that hype you up are going to be the same people who shoot you down. And so for me, I always just kind of stay right here in the middle. I think that was my personal opinion. It's me, like people are going to love me, people are going to hate me. I think that's with anyone. And so that's just what it is.
Because here's the truth no one wants to say. Caitlyn Clark doesn't need the WNBA, but the WNBA absolutely needs Caitlyn Clark. And if they don't start treating her like the cornerstone she is, she might just walk away, leaving a divided league behind to clean up its own mess.
That it is looking very, very spooky for the league moving forward without having these agreements done.
WNBA players were insulted by her offer.
Breanna Stewart is furious. Caitlyn Clark is speaking up. And the WNBA, it's spinning in circles, caught between old power structures and a future that's already here. The veterans are demanding change. The union is playing defense. And yet the one person driving record-breaking growth, the reason arenas are full and networks are bidding billions, is being pushed to the sidelines. Caitlyn Clark isn't asking for control. She's asking for common sense. But the league's refusal to listen, the players' silent jealousy, and the leadership's political games are creating a storm that could tear everything down. This isn't about one player. This is about what kind of league the WNBA wants to be. One that builds with its stars, or one that breaks under its own pride. So if you believe Caitlyn Clark deserves more than silence, if you believe her voice matters, drop a 100% for Caitlyn in the comments. Because the league is watching, and right now, it needs a wake-up call.